The Western media was in a flutter again after a Chinese warship apparently bullied Washington by coming dangerously close to a US destroyer. That sounds quite terrifying, doesn't it? I wonder where that happened. Was it off the coast of Hawaii? Maybe near California? No, in fact, it wasn't anywhere near the United States. It happened all the way over here between China's mainland and the island of Taiwan. Today, we'll take a closer look. This is Reports on China. I'm Andy Borham in Shanghai. To be clear, we do not seek conflict or confrontation. Those were the hilariously ironic words of US Secretary of Defense General Lloyd Austin after a Chinese PLA vessel intercepted the path of a US destroyer in the Taiwan Strait last week. Again, I just want to show you guys where the Taiwan Strait is compared to the continental USA. Now, ask yourself, what business does a US destroyer have in this part of the world? Well, we'll talk about that shortly. But first, the Western media called it a near collision as they had a complete meltdown. Let's take a look at some of the mania.
Breaking news, a dangerous close call at sea. A Chinese warship nearly colliding with a U.S. destroyer near Taiwan. It's just the latest in a series of provocative moves by the Chinese military.
Tonight, the harrowing moment. A Chinese warship dangerously cuts off a U.S. destroyer in the Taiwan Strait.
To be clear, we do not seek conflict or confrontation, but we will not flinch in the face of bullying or coercion.
The US and Canadian navies were conducting a joint exercise in the Taiwan Strait, and that is when a Chinese warship cut in front of the US vessel.
A Chinese warship is cut in front of an American destroyer in an unsafe manner in the Taiwan Strait. US and Canadian navies had been conducting a routine exercise when the warship came within 130 metres of the destroyer. It's pretty close. The actions of the Chinese ship violated maritime international waters, rules of the road. China has blamed America, though, for purposely causing risk in the region. Its defense minister believes America should stay out of the region.
What these media whores are not telling the people is that the fact of U.S. Navy and Canadians Navy went 7,000 plus miles so that China's PLA Navy can be aggressive and causing risks.
What's the point of going there? What does it have to do directly with your interests?
We need to be eyes wide open on China. And the fact is that they have become an increasingly disruptive global power.
That hilarious quote at the end there was from Canada's Defence Minister, Anita Anand. I find it completely terrifying that anyone in the West could be so brainwashed to believe the words that come out of these politicians' mouths. Does the public really have no ability to think for themselves based on the facts at hand? China has become an increasingly disruptive global power, she says. Lady, listen to yourself. That US-guided missile destroyer and the Canadian frigate were intercepted off the coast of mainland China. You are literally sending warships to the coast of China, thousands and thousands of miles away from your home, and you have the gall to say it's China that's becoming disruptive. The fact of the matter is that the US-led Western hegemony knows that China is getting stronger and stronger, and that China is the first nation in decades with a legitimate shot at putting the US-led West in its place. That is what they can't tolerate. Sending warships off China's coast is extremely provocative and a clear attempt to ratchet up tensions in the region. The usual idiots on Twitter are coming to Washington's defense, quoting the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea as the basis for the US to bring warships this close to China. Likewise, the US Secretary of Defense added to this point at the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore recently. This from the AP. In his speech the previous day, Austin broadly outlined the US vision for a free, open, and secure Indo-Pacific within a world of rules and rights. But that's a moot point because, first and foremost, Washington itself refuses to ratify the convention. Why would you try to use a law that the US won't even enact itself to defend US actions on the sea? By the way, China was one of the first signatories to the convention. Rules for thee, but not for me. Washington has a hideous history of failing to ratify international treaties that many other countries in the world support. Apart from this US Convention on the Law of the Sea, which 168 states, including China, have enacted, the US has also failed to ratify many others, including the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, ratified by 189 states, the Mine Ban Treaty, which aims to end the use of anti-personnel landmines around the world and is supported by 164 states, and the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, ratified by 170 states who wish to outright ban nuclear testing. There are many more examples, which begs the question, how does Washington dare claim it supports the so-called international rules-based order when it constantly shirks responsibility by ignoring important international treaties that most other countries in the world have signed up to? Shocking. Other Twitter users who don't understand much about the world bleated on about the Taiwan Strait being so-called international waters. Now, I have breaking news for you. There is no such thing as international waters in international law. It literally means nothing. Another card they try and play is the idea of innocent passage, which is also completely irrelevant. Article 19 of the Convention says that passage is innocent so long as it is not prejudicial to the peace, good order, or security of the coastal state. Sailing warships through China's waters without being invited is definitely prejudicial to the peace, good order, and security of the coastal state, in this case, China. Also, if the US claimed innocent passage, it would be de facto admitting it was passing through Chinese territory. On top of that, since Taiwan is internationally recognized, even by the United States, as a territory of China, as per the One China principle, the entire Taiwan Strait is the sovereign territory of China, made up of 12 nautical miles from the territorial boundary, plus another 12 nautical miles, which is the contiguous zone. Then between that is China's exclusive economic zone. With that in mind, the US bringing warships into the Taiwan Strait is nothing less than extremely provocative. Can you imagine if the PLA brought their warships 24 nautical miles off the coast of California or 24 nautical miles off the coast of Hawaii? What would Washington say? What would the Western media say? Well, I'm telling you right now, it would be complete pandemonium. China is preparing to invade. China is about to start a war, and so on and so on. You can just imagine it, right? China's Defense Minister, General Li Shangfu, had stern words to say about US provocations in the region. He said, "Our Chinese military planes and warships will never go near the territorial airspace and territorial waters for so-called navigation hegemony. The best way is for all countries, especially the military planes and warships of all countries, not to go hanging around in other countries' territorial waters and territorial airspace." Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Regardless of whatever the so-called international law says about navigation of the sea, isn't it just a better idea to not be a dick and go around purposely causing trouble? Let's do another comparison. You own a house in the suburbs. It's your property, and people cannot enter your property without permission. People can walk by on the public footpath. That's not a problem. But imagine if every month a group of thugs with machine guns and knives kept walking slowly past your house and looking in. And when you kicked up a stink about it and complained that it made you feel uncomfortable, they just said, "I'm just walking on the public footpath, but I do not seek conflict or confrontation." And then the next time they came, they brought more friends with them and slowly scoped around your property with those guns and knives. This time you go out and tell them to piss off, to stop purposefully trying to scare and intimidate your family. They refuse to leave and then accuse you of being increasingly disruptive in the neighborhood. Truly, that is exactly what is happening here. So regardless of what international law says about navigation of the sea, and trust me, most parts are debatable, sailing warships so close to another country when you know they don't want you to is just a bit of a dick thing to do. Like China's defense minister said, keep your warships away from other countries, especially when you know what you're doing is just designed to annoy people and raise tensions. Don't be a dick, America. Anyway, you guys, that's about it for today.